Welcome everyone that has joined this HiCareer live session, and I'm super happy. Wait a second. Do we have anyone here currently? That's the question. Bra start. Give me a second. I will just see. We wait in about 20 seconds.
So there was the first hello.
There we go. Yeah. It's something. Now I can see that people are here. Thanks for helping me out, because it looked like it was like 0 people watching this. That would have been too bad, because I have an amazing guest here. But shortly, welcome everyone to HiCareer live session. I'm super happy to be here again. We did our first live session last week with Pietro from Neo4j. You can watch that in our YouTube channel. That is like just recently launched as well. So we do this because we want to provide you hidden insights on like how to land your dream job, how to thrive in your career. And I think that there are some people that might know quite a bit about that. And Linus, you have been on the other side, so to say, for quite a while now. So I'm super happy to present you to our audience here. And I will probably learn lots of stuff as well. So how are you, Linus?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. And I've been on both sides, I'd say. I've been a candidate and I've been a recruiter.
That's cool. What do you prefer then?
It depends on the recruiter. No, I do prefer the recruiter side.
Yeah, that's cool. And I will try to dig into as much topics as possible. You've been at some interesting places throughout the years, working with tech recruitment mainly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but first of all, I just want to provide you all some context, or Linus should provide you with some context first. So we are going to have like the first part discussing Linus' journey, what took him into this job as a freelancing tech recruiter, and then we're going to deep dive into more like practical advice, like what you have seen from the other side, and what people can learn out of that. So Linus, just start with tell a bit more about yourself.
Of course. So yeah, I'm a tech recruiter, which is quite a good summary you already gave. A couple of years of experience. I think roughly 10 to 15 years I've been in that space. I actually came from the social area before, where I realized like I love to work with people. And my dad is a developer. He was always complaining about recruiters, and I feel like actually pretty cool job, isn't it? Like you can help people, you can help companies. If you do a good job, you have achieved people getting into a better position than they were before. So that's how I got interested in that area. I started an agency, realized, okay, that's not where I want to be. So after 2 years, I started my own company, worked for companies like Spotify, Klarna, Atlassian, Typeform, Nubank. I then joined Volvo Cars. Spent roughly 3 years there, building out the sourcing and talent intelligence team. Completely different to anything I'd done before. And now I'm back to freelancing in tech companies. So I work for IO at the moment, which probably no one knows. But if I say it's the company that has built AdBlock Plus, I guess everyone that was out there before Netflix knows what it is, at least. So that's me.
That's cool. And can you just show us like a bit like what's like the, what do you say, like the common factor, like what, like all these different places you've been at, is there anything that is like similar, and is there, like, if you compare like Volvo Cars, for example, or Spotify compared to Klarna, or like, can you see differences, similarities?
Yeah, I mean, looking at like taking Volvo Cars because I think it's the most odd employer I've had on my profile, or I do have. It's so much broader in what they're hiring for. I think it's the first time I got in touch with blue collar hiring, which is like so different to white collar and especially tech. For the others, we were looking for those kind of rare profiles that, especially going back a couple of years when we were in a different situation, they didn't apply. They probably didn't even reply if you approached them with a job. And still convincing them it was super important we had a good brand. It was super important we had a really good candidate experience, and like a good offering to make people interested. And I think a lot of that has changed now.
And looking into, I mean, tech recruitment is quite a broad area. Like, have you been like part of like end-to-end recruitment processes? Have you been focusing a bit more on like sourcing, like the intro call and these kind of things, or like what kind of contacts have you been involved in?
Yeah, in all of it. So everything from gathering data to influence decisions to actually end-to-end recruitment to even like I've done sales and customer support recruitment, which was like just volume. Remember in one company, I had at least 250 applicants per day, which you somehow needed to manage to go through to give a proper, like, honest opinion and decision. So pretty much everything. Then again, I don't consider sourcing being just reach out. It's much more than that. So yeah, most of my roles I've been sourcing, but then I handled candidates end to end.
Cool, interesting. And we will soon also like switch a bit more into like the candidate's perspective of the processes you've been at, of course. But like just a quick question to the audience. I'm just like super curious to hear like what professions do you have and where are you based? And you can also like anytime during this session, you can like just feel free to add a question here, and I will bring that in. So we can roast Linus a bit about his, what do you call it, like secret sauces of how to land this kind of job that, that you want and are looking for. But feel free to add what you're doing so we get some more context as well. But Linus, if you look at recruiting, because you've been working for Nubank, that's a Brazilian-founded fintech company, right? So if you compare like recruiting for Nubank compared to, let's say, Klarna, a Swedish fintech company, like how big differences do you see, like cultural wise, and how do you like translate that into a new approach in hiring, in sourcing, or anything?
Yeah, it's it has been a very interesting journey. I mean, I started out in Sweden, then I worked for a while in Germany, then Atlassian with like Sydney-based company, and Mountain View and Brazil. And I mean, it's a huge difference, especially in communication. So from a recruiter perspective, it's how do you work internally and how do you communicate with candidates? What do people like? I mean, Germany being very, very direct and very like, hey, this is what I have, this is what you want, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Whilst, for example, in Brazil, I experienced pretty much the opposite of that, like being very careful, not insulting people because of how I am, being like, hey, so this doesn't work, and like being more careful in that. But it also influences how I message people. So it's so different. Like if I'd in Germany or even Sweden write a message saying, hey, I have a job for you, which is amazing. This is a great job. Join us. Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what do you want? Like, give me some more information on what's in the US that works amazing.
Yeah. So it's really like very different approaches. If you like switch this over to the candidate side or the individual's point of view, like depending on where you are like trying to, or what kind of company you want to land the job at, you need to tweak your approach there as well. If you just reverse
Definitely. I mean, if like most companies give you so much information up front, like what do we like? How are we? You do have all the people on LinkedIn. You can check what are they posting, what are they doing. Like the more I align with that, and it's not only for the company, it's for you as well. Like, do you actually like? Do you want to work 24/7? Yeah, maybe go to a startup rather than to a corporate. Don't you want to work 24/7? Maybe don't join a startup at that stage that actually requires that. And I had a manager telling me like, hey, so on-site is not necessarily 100%. Sometimes it's okay to be on-site 5 days instead of 7. So, I mean, yeah, that's really depends on what you like. And
So maybe it starts with like getting to know yourself before you actively do headhunting. I mean, you always have to do everything in parallel in some way, but it sounds a bit like you need to find like your kind of like match first. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, if you read through a website and think like, ugh, yeah, maybe don't apply. Like, maybe it's not a good match, and it doesn't like. I mean, at latest 6 months later, you'll be there like, okay, yeah, that didn't work. So maybe just skip it in that case. Whilst if you read a web page and you realize, oh, this sounds amazing, that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah,
great. But then refer to it as well, like and not only, hey, I read this and this is amazing, I'm the right fit, but like why? Like what is the right fit here?
Inner reflection.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I get some comments here, super interesting. So there are like lots of different stories here. Varva used to be a consultant at BCG, but dropped after 1 year. I mean, that's interesting. So I mean, I'm trying to lead this this session a bit into some different part. But I think like one thing that is kind of interesting is like meaningfulness and like finding like your path in your career. If you look at your perspective as a recruiter, how much does it mean when someone comes in with like clarity into the process, like, and how can you just see it? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, and I mean, to clarify, because this is I know it's a big thing in recruiting, and for me it's not super important someone comes in and says I've done a ton of research about your product just because of making the research. For me, it's important people understand what they're looking for and understand this is a match. But also, like, you get a ton of messages as a recruiter. Some of them being, hey, I'd love a job. Could you please help me? Or even like, I'd love a job. I have 15 years of experience. Could you please help me? Or going further, I see on like Facebook job groups, like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Cool. Like, it's hard to respond to those messages.
Yep.
And probably my response will be, awesome, we have a careers page. Take a look there. Whilst then I get those, and they are actually quite rare, messages saying, hey, I have experience in this and that. I've seen these and that role could be a match for my profile. You have been at similar companies. Could you help me look at my resume? Could you give me any tips how to best apply for it? Whom should I approach? What could I do? With more concrete foundation of like, hey, I've actually thought before I ask you. Which the bare minimum will happen that as a recruiter, I memorize that. And if I don't have the right role right now, I will probably come back to it later on when I have the right role.
So it's in some way like this sounds, I mean, in some way it's all about like becoming top of mind in some way in your you as like to you as a recruiter. So when the right kind of role comes up, you have like some people that might be a bit more like, okay, let's go for these ones first, or how does it work?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first, but like, so I have people in my network and in my that stuck where I know, okay, I'm gonna ping that person for this role because we have spoken and I know they would be a fit. I know they have the right culture, they have the right skills. That for sure. And I'm probably not just for recruiters, like generally, I think I would advise every candidate to be mindful of their network. And we like it. I when I follow LinkedIn discussions, I've seen how it shifted, but basically candidates were doing what recruiters are doing now. So I see a lot of posts of candidates complaining about recruiters not getting back to them, just giving standard replies, ghosting them, providing a bad candidate experience. If you go back 3 to 4 years, maybe 5, I saw the exact opposite. Recruiters complaining about candidates being rude, candidates ghosting them, candidates, and I've had really rude responses to just the normal approach of like, hey, this is a job I have for you. Are you interested? And obviously, we're all humans. So it's still like when that person comes back to me 2 years later, it is hard to completely disregard that.
So that's interesting. So, I mean, we have been discussing this session a bit before, Linus, and you told me that you're quite into the importance of like understanding that, okay, the recruiter is also a human being. So you're like discussing this a bit now. Like, can you just like, what's your conclusion here, and how should like an individual approach this more like concretely?
I mean, I think it's like having that in mind. Like, hey, we're all humans. There is no one size fits all, one way fits all. Like I know there are so many tips out there. Like, hey, you need to write your CV this way. So what I'd say is, when you write your CV, is it easy to read? Because I saw it in the comments here. Like, yeah, there are a ton of applications for every role. So you need to go through hundreds of CVs. If you actually want to do that, I really appreciate if they're easy to read. But there is not like the right or wrong format. When you go into a conversation, it actually helps to ease yourself, knowing that you're talking to a human being. Trying to bear that in mind, to not like, you don't need to be overly nervous because there is just the human on the other side. And as long as you connect with them, you'll go out in a positive way. Like, maybe it's not a fit for that role, maybe it's not a seniority fit or skill fit or whatever. But as long as you're nice and kind and somewhat prepared, you'll have another contact. And that's how I always would treat it, to say, hey, every interview I can take, every conversation I can take, there's one more person who knows about my profile.
Would you say that it's common that you recommend like candidates that you have talked to your network, like recruiters at other companies? Is that like a way of like
100%? And I mean, I like, again, I like just set the right expectations here. Like, I'm definitely not answering to every message I get just because I don't have the time for it. But I do read every message. And if I see, oh, someone told me about this, then I will definitely make an introduction. And generally trying to help. Like, I've also, like, I've had people telling me, hey, could you look over my CV? Crazy enough, people that said like, hey, I offer you, like, how much do you want for reading my CV? And I'm like, yeah, obviously I won't take advantage of your situation not finding a job. So I would never take money for that. But I mean, again, we're all humans, so we're trying to help each other. As long as we have a somewhat positive impression.
Yeah, thanks. I will bring in a couple of questions, and then they are a bit like related to this. So yeah, Victor, you have 2 questions. So basically, we can take 2 questions in one. So yeah, so I mean, this is of course based on your experience at some different companies, but yeah, how much part of the hiring process is actually automated, and how much time do you spend on a resume? That's my question. 7 seconds or 70?
Really good question. And I love that it came up, because I feel like people think way more is automated than it actually is. There are very, very few ATSs, if even any, that actually do a good job in screening by AI. For the companies I've worked for, we basically didn't have any automation on the human touch points for white collar roles. So when we speak automation, that might have been scheduling. I read every resume I see or I get. It doesn't take me too long though. Like, so I've learned what to look for specific roles.
That's really interesting. I've been running a couple of communities, and one has been for like talent acquisition people or recruiting people at different like tech companies. And yeah, I've heard like people have like questions there that, oh, do you have any like automation tools for screening candidates? But I mean, yeah, most people say the same actually, or most recruiters I've talked to.
I mean, in Europe, it's actually pretty hard to find a legal AI doing the screening for you. There are really, really strict regulations to that.
Yeah. Cool. And also, yeah, I was actually about to ask this question. So I saw that there are some people in the audiences that are some are transitioning, like career pivoting. Some people here are like moving from like one place on earth to another, and then we have some like more like junior people, graduated people, like that are going to get their first job, so to say, or first like job related to that education. Like, so it might be quite hard to stand out if you're like transitioning, if you're like moving to a new city or country. Like, do you have any tips and tricks for people in that stage?
I think it's again a great question, and so one, I would definitely say, if you're not applying for a research role, like in AI companies, where like in deep tech, where we need a certain like educational background, there is no because you're a career changer. The market right now is tough. So like the reason why it is probably harder for a career changer is because it's harder for any junior candidate, and you'd be considered junior in the field because there are just more senior people applying for the more junior role. So as a company, you can probably pick more. What I really recommend is to keep an active part in the community. So most companies I've worked for, I've always looked at the GitHub profile. Like how active are you outside of what you do at work? How good does it look? How many followers do you have there? How many forks? Like the other side is you're learning stuff that if you're active in the community, like going to meetups, taking part in conferences, but you're also building a network. At some point, you're meeting that one person that has this one job that you need, and that's the step in. So that's my like really, really strong recommendation.
Thanks for that advice. And as you can see, let's see if we have any more questions that we haven't been stepping into. But it sounds like it's basically the same principle, like moving from one country or city to another country or city. Like in some way, you need to like start getting to know people, showcase, like take initiatives that makes it more obvious for the companies you're looking to be hired at?
Yeah, and I mean, it says here if the skills and job titles are transferable. That's actually the one time where I feel a cover letter makes sense. Like I'm really not a huge fan of cover letters, especially if they are, "Dear sir and madam, I would like to," and then, you know, like there is nothing that is related to the job people are applying for. So in this case, actually explaining why the skills and the titles are transferable definitely makes sense. And I like the point where I read a cover letter and feel it's valuable is when I'm unsure on the CV. I see the resume and I'm like, might be transferable, might not. There is something that I don't understand. Please explain it in the cover letter.
So, I mean, you've been at Magic. That's quite a techy company. I mean, you've been at quite many tech companies, but also like you've been at some larger corporations and also like some smaller like tech startups. So regarding like the traditional way of applying to job, like are there any kinds of companies where like the traditional resume, traditional like cover letter is more relevant, or are there any like markets like or countries in the world where it's still like very relevant?
So definitely companies. I feel like the smaller the companies, the more flexible they become, and also the more niche the role is, the more flexible they do become. I've seen in like, I don't know, well, what was a bigger deal to actually, like, you needed to go through the process, you needed to go through the system. We couldn't even upload people into the system. Generally, corporates will insist more on like the framework they have. You need to send that cover letter. But then again, if you do, please personalize it. Like, there is like this one cover letter for every role that it's like, no. And you knowing you're a great fit, it doesn't help to state that. Obviously, you think that, otherwise you wouldn't have applied. But like, give me a reason why you are. Like, I need to understand why, not that you are it. It's actually looking at companies like Magic. They have the more traditional requirements just because they need a different kind of skill set. So, for example, education was super important. Coming from the right educational background, we couldn't consider people, but they wouldn't go through the process as well if they didn't have that background. But that was less given the company than the kind of roles they were working in.
Get it. And I also saw a question here from Ilkay, who's transitioning or like moving to Netherlands, trying to find a job there. So how should Ilkay and the other people in the audience think about this? Is it a tough situation? Is it like, no, it's hopeless, it's not season? I mean, in some way it has not been season for a couple of years now. But
summer is slow for sure. I'd probably say in other countries than Sweden, not as slow as in Sweden. In Sweden, I mean, you have this vacation period where everyone is gone for like 4 to 5 weeks. Again, I'd say there is a difference between, I don't see a startup actually doing this. Like, I don't see a startup allowing the entire TA team to say, we're gone, it's summer vacation, whilst probably the bigger corporations are stricter on you need to take that vacation during summer. But summer is slower. I wouldn't say stop applying. I would say continue doing your work. Maybe focus even more on connecting with people than just sending applications.
So like a summer greeting or something else. So
hey, hope you have a great vacation.
We're
back.
Take care. Just no questions. Just take care. So
now that you have time because you're not working, here is my application.
And maybe, I mean, I consider it this way. So I mean, summer, like when most people are gone, and not maybe like like actively recruiting, I mean, that's a great time to like go deeper in yourself and get to know yourself, your passions, your interests, like what gives you energy. Because I think that like coming out with like confidence when the timing is more right, so to say, I think that could be a good idea. I mean, as you say, Linus, I don't think you should slow it. You can slow it down a bit, but you should still continue applying. But I mean, maybe you can like do a bit more of like inner reflection first to come out with confidence then.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, honestly, like, for me, when I go on vacation, I'm not gone. Like, if you ping me on LinkedIn, I will definitely read it. Maybe that's exactly the time to do it, because I won't have 50 interviews and emails and applications, but I will have that LinkedIn in mail, and I will, for sure, I promise I remember it when I go back to work.
So maybe it's about like having a different like approach or a way of like contacting you then. So cool. Yeah, we were discussing this a bit, like automation, AI. They are like quite tightly related to each other. But do you use AI? Anything like when evaluating job applications?
I did in certain companies for high volume, but not really. I think the question is more though towards applicants using AI.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. It's
but so, and they're generally like, most companies tell you if it's okay or not. If not, just ask them. I personally don't have an issue with it, as long as it depends on what you use it for. So if you don't show, like, what I've seen is candidates using AI for a coding challenge. Then they went into the review, like typically you submit the coding challenge and then you have an interview about it. And I've seen candidates then being in an interview and saying, when they get asked, so why did you solve it this way? Why does this make sense? The response being, yeah, that's because AI did it this way, which isn't the best answer. You should know why AI did it this way. So the question is, do you have the foundations to understand why things are solved the way it is? Have you read it through before you submitted it? Or haven't you? And I mean, same as if you're still have the kind of like, here is your response from the AI, that doesn't make a good impression. So I wouldn't say not generally no, but you need to know your stuff.
So basically, if the AI like took over the resume and everything was just AI without you conceptualizing and like being in control, that might be a bit.
Yeah, and especially if you don't understand what AI did.
No. So start there then. Yeah. Cool. And I had another interesting question here from Nilan, a tech recruiter based in Sweden. Yeah, how should a tech recruiter navigate the job market or the industry? We have the question here.
I mean, given the current market, it's not the best for recruiters. I feel like there are jobs coming once in a while now, so it looks better than it did a while ago. I'm not the most into the Swedish market, so there are probably others that are better to answer how it looks in Sweden specifically. My roles have often been outside of Sweden. What I recommend is to talk with the different consulting companies as well, like not only in-house, but like there are so many good recruiting companies in Stockholm. If it's Stockholm, what I've seen is a trend towards on-site. So I guess you need to be open to relocate, or you need to live in one of the major cities in Sweden.
Yeah. So being a bit more like flexible in terms of the preferences might be needed now. Yeah. Interesting. And yeah, to add to that, Ilka, yeah, exactly. Using AI, like using AI to compose a cover letter, like or a resume. I think we covered that a bit, right? But it's the same thing there, right? So staying in control of the AI, so it doesn't become like just generic AI buzzword ish.
Yeah,
That's correct, right?
for cover letter, it's actually tricky because I mean, I like, and this is again my personal view. Like someone else might see it completely different.
Yeah.
But I read a cover letter to get something filled in that I didn't understand. If you use AI to write the cover letter, then it's just there because you need to submit it and then just skip it. What I do is I ask AI to check if what I said makes sense and if my spelling is correct and my grammar is correct. And that I highly recommend. Like, it's not necessary to have spelling or grammar mistakes with so many tools out there.
So optimizing instead of creating from scratch, basically. Thanks. Just like I just want to get some more like practical insight, like throughout the hiring process. I mean, you've been doing a lot of outreach messaging. You've been scanning or screening applications. You've been like part of like the processes. Like if we start with the sourcing part, or when you're reaching out to a candidate, like what can an individual do to like stand out or be seen, be visible? Are there any like very practical advice to share there?
Yeah, I mean, again, like being active in a community always helps. That means you're active on several channels. That means you're findable.
Yeah.
Being approachable. I've seen candidates who have the open to work banner, but then they don't allow you to message them on LinkedIn. I'm like, you're looking for a job or not, or like, what is your game here? Obviously, being friendly. Like when you respond, like even if you're not looking for a job, it doesn't harm to say, "Hey, I'm currently not looking."
Yeah.
Instead of "Screw you, never approach me again." Yeah, that's mainly what I feel is important. And like the better the explanation on your profile is, the easier it is for me to identify the right roles for you.
Yeah. You mentioned that you're like you always look into GitHub, and that's mainly for developers, of course. But like for other roles, like how can you showcase yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm using tools like Amazing Hiring, which won't just show me GitHub. It will show me blogs. It will show me other platforms they could be on. And I mean, there are certain platforms for design. There are like certain for developers. For that's my main area, so that's where I can name that. But they're research. There are certain platforms you can be on. So I'm sure there are good platforms for every area, and I'm sure the recruiters working in those areas knows them. So wherever you are, be active in the community.
So contributing to other people, or actively contributing to the community, and like actively like showcase like initiatives, projects, and these kind of things as well. Cool.
Yeah, and you're there. You're findable. If you're active, you're findable.
Yeah, get it. And then moving to, I mean, we had quite some discussions about like what to think about when to apply, being personal, being easy to read, like having a resume or a cover letter that is easy to read and like relevant. So let's move on a bit into the intro call, or like the interviewing process. You were discussing this a bit like 20 minutes ago or so, that okay, be human, think that okay, have in mind that Linus is also a human being, but like any more practical advice on how to like nail the interview?
Yeah, I would always ask what to expect in an interview so that you can be prepared.
Before the interview, yeah. So when you're
Yes.
sharing it.
So when you get the invite, I would always say, hey, what can I expect in this interview? I mean, even I as a recruiter do that because, yeah, I'm used to interviewing, but especially if we say, so most or a lot of companies are following the STAR model, which means you actually need to have examples of certain situations. And it can be really hard to find the right examples ad hoc. So rather think about it before and make sure you have good examples, then going out of the call and being like, damn it, that was like this kind, like that was the perfect, but I didn't. And it's not the same thing to email. Like you definitely can email interviewers afterwards. And yeah, tell something you wanted to add. But yeah, 100% better to be well prepared in advance. Focus on your interview. I've seen the weirdest things during interviews where people did other things, like completely other things. If you have a screen, so you're not looking at your computer, tell the interviewer that. And I mean, like small things, like I wear glasses. So if it's dark in your room, like as a recruiter, I can see what you look at. And I mean, if it's something else, like I've had people watching videos during the interview. Obviously, it wasn't like, yeah, stuff like that helps.
So be proactive, prepared, and then define the setup so there you will not mess it up on the details or the hygiene factors.
And this is not directly the interview. Take feedback with grace. I never give feedback through email. I always do it on a call. And either the reaction is, okay, I might not agree with it, but like I take it. And I can work on it or not. Or the feedback is, but you're wrong. Where I understand that. And it's obviously 1 hour out of your entire life. But then again, like you need to understand this is what we need to assess you on. Like somehow we need to set those criteria. We can't redo it 5 times. So taking the feedback with grace helps to just re-enter the process, knowing what they were looking for last time, so I can change that next time.
Cool. I will just go. I think I have like 2 questions from the audience first that we can shortly answer, and then we will wrap this up a bit. And I have like 2 really like short $1 million questions to ask you. So we'll see how we will deliver there. But first of all, one question is regarding like how the balance. Let's see here from Vanessa. So how is the balance shifting between remote and on-site work? Like, you mentioned this a bit, but is that like?
Yeah, unfortunately, very much towards on-site. I work in remote myself, and I have been for the last 8 years. I think it's a bummer for especially neurodiverse people, but yeah, very much on-site, unfortunately.
Get it. And also from Vanessa, like that was like a previous question, like this is maybe a bit related to this because quite many contractors might prefer freelancing as well. But yeah, how's the trend here?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I haven't seen it firsthand at the companies I've worked at. It hasn't been a thing, rather the other way around. So yeah, I wouldn't really want to comment on that, to be honest.
Yeah. I've been discussing this topic a bit, like contractors versus full-time. And what I've seen in the market, this is like just, okay, it's quite many tech companies I've been looking at. But I've seen that many of these tech companies and e-commerce companies are downsizing their internal organization a bit in terms of like lowering like the overhead costs basically for running their businesses. And then these companies might actually prefer to put in some like more contractors on like short-term contracts just to be more safe when the market goes down. So that could be just a short input here, but it's not truth. But I've been discussing this a bit. So yeah, that's my short answer on this. Cool. Do we have any more questions? So last question, also from Vanessa. Thanks for providing us all these amazing questions. Are there any other platforms or channels that you've seen work well regarding community, like meetups, events?
It's really dependent on the area I work in. I mean, like for engineers, Stack Overflow, GitHub definitely are good. I mean, you have ResearchGate where I'm spending a lot of time. You even on Facebook in different groups. I'd say the more you get involved in your community, the more you will find the right platforms to be on because people tell you about it.
So maybe it starts with getting to understand like what communities would I love to be part of, and like where do the like-minded people hang out.
Yeah, exactly. And then I know there is a platform called spoj.com or like SPOJ where a lot of people are for like interview preparation and the coding challenge. So there is so many but beyond those you can be active on. It doesn't make sense to just register everywhere and then not be active there.
Cool.
So get your mind around what you want to do.
Thanks. Time is running up, and I think we'll just wrap this up in 2 minutes. So I have the biggest questions to ask, last but not least, of course. But that the first, the $1 million question here is how do you actually land a job at a tech giant? Can you see anything like that? Okay, this is why we hired these persons. Is there anything specific to share there?
Make sure you apply for jobs you're relevant for. Read through the job description, really understand what they're looking for. I see a lot of people applying for 50 jobs at once, and I'm like, you can never be a fit for all of those roles. Anything from mobile to Python engineer, and I was like, haven't done both. So that's one. If you're really a good fit, people will look at you. Be prepared for the interviews. Ask, what can I expect? Especially the tech companies do have a good interview preparation. Make use of that. Research the people you're talking to so you know whom you're talking to. You can better connect with them. You know what you're prepared for. And then be show up on time, be prepared, be communicative, be responsive, and then I think it will work.
Is that an important thing, responding quickly, or is it okay to have 1 day delay when you?
Yeah, of course. So with responsive, I mean you need to respond like this, but just be if you get an email, respond to it as well. And with that, I also mean stuff so when I ask people, hey, could you provide me availability, preferably at least 3 slots the next week? You can't imagine how often I get, I'm available on Wednesday at 12:15, period. Cool, you're talking to 4 of our VP of engineering. That's really hard to schedule with that 1 slot.
Thanks. Yeah. And just my last question. Time is running up, but I guess that you all people can also connect with Linus. I have Linus LinkedIn page on the event page at HiCareer. But last question, if there's talking to everyone now, if there's one thing you should do today to improve your chances of landing a job or nailing job search, what would that be?
Work on your brand, on your personal brand. Make sure LinkedIn is up to date, it's accurate. Make sure your social networks are accurate. Be mindful of what you write in social networks. I mean, people read it, and if you insult the company you want to work for in the future, maybe don't.
That's
so
amazing.
work on your brand.
That's amazing. So thanks everyone that was here joining this session. I just want to move on for like 2 more hours, and I hope you felt the same. And Linus, I'm just like so happy that you could contribute to us here, and I've learned a lot myself as well. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
So maybe see you in another session in the future as well. So yeah,
I hope so.
Cool,
thank you.
Take care, everyone, and yeah, see you around. The next session is with Saya, co-founder of Emigrate, that will talk about how to get into the Swedish job market. So that's next Wednesday, 11:30. So hopefully see you there, and we have lots of things coming up. Take care, everyone, and thanks again, Linus. Bye.